Hello everyone, my name is Shazana Lim, Lead Research Analyst from SSO Analytics, and today I have the great pleasure of hosting the top 20 most admired SSO benchmarking exclusive. Before I introduce the speaker from one of the top 20 SSOs, let me share a little bit more about SSON's top 20 list. What is it all about? So for the fourth year in a row, we've identified from thousands of shared services all around the world, and based on SSON's cross-channel data and criteria that you see on the screen, we've put together an exclusive list of top 20 SSOs, which I'm going to bring up in the next slide. So without further ado, these are the organizations that made it to the top 20 list in 2020. Congratulations to all for their well-deserved achievement. Why do we put this list together? It's not just to honor and highlight top performing shared services, but this also gives you something to stretch for and allow the SSON community to benchmark themselves against these 20 organizations. And even though we're talking about 20 organizations, we captured data from 73 different SSEs all around the world. It was quite an extensive study, which I'm sure the speaker I'm going to introduce you in a minute can attest to. And I really want to thank her and her team for putting in the time and effort, even though it was really challenging last year with COVID and everything. So enough of me talking. I'm really delighted and excited to have Albina now, Operations Manager from Lion, here with me today. Welcome, Albina. Glad to have you join us today.
Thanks. It's my pleasure to be here, Shaz.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll start off by asking the first question, sorry. How has this recognition resonated with your customers, senior management, and what does it mean to you?
Look, we generally share insights that we gain from the broader networks, and we do love having such a great collegiate network of SSON members and peers. So we tend to share those insights quite broadly across the business with our leadership teams and really celebrate the achievements when we have the opportunity. In terms of context for enterprise services, I guess 2020 was quite a significant year for us, and we've achieved some pretty outstanding results overall. So we've navigated through COVID like everybody else and moving to a remote working environment. We had no productivity downtime across either onshore or offshore teams. We've worked through supporting our customer impacts who were impacted by venue closures across Australia and New Zealand. We've really worked closely with the business to minimise through proactive debt management, any unexpected write-offs. We've also actually, alongside all of that, divested our dairy business, implemented SAP S/4HANA Go Live whilst working remotely, and kind of done all of that alongside with our key strategic priorities in the business as well. So we tend to have a significant focus on process excellence. It's one of our 5 key strategic pillars. And we tend to drive quite a bit of improvement year on year. Last year's target in particular was 5% waste reduction. So we've managed to overachieve that by 192%. Never waste a crisis. Wow. That always brings significant opportunities to think on your feet and really change up the way you do things, right? So I guess with all of that, there's been quite a number of achievements across the board. We've also improved our business partnering. So we grew our business partner engagement by 9% to 85% and managed to also grow our people engagement results 4 percentage points on a prior year. So we ended up with a people engagement score of 76%. So to wrap, I guess, all of that up and then also be recognised by SSON in the top 20 list was really, really quite an outstanding result overall. Really, to be in such great company with the brands and organisations that you flashed up on the screen before is really quite humbling. So we were very excited to celebrate that internally with our leadership teams and in particular our teams. It's absolutely an achievement of the team overall, and that's definitely something from a cultural perspective we place a lot of value on. So again, from an organisational health index that we ran, supported by McKinsey, we've reached an overall health score of 74% against the global benchmark and ranked in the top decile for things like bottom-up innovation, employee involvement, supportive leadership, and open and trusting work environment. So I guess it was quite a nice wrap-up having the culture that we've worked on really establishing over the last number of years, and evolving enterprise services to a point where we can now really genuinely stand up in such great company as your top 20 global organizations.
Yeah, and that was a huge, lengthy list. That's really impressive. Congratulations. And yeah, I really think that Lions really well deserve to be in this top 20 list. Okay, I'm just going to move on to the next question. I wanted to highlight briefly for the top 20 study, we captured 30 metrics across 8 of the categories here. How was it participating in a benchmarking study and leveraging the results helpful for you as you guide your organization forward? And any of this specifically priorities for you?
It certainly was quite insightful. And again, having benchmarks, particularly against sort of your peer organisations, is really quite useful in general. So for context, and I touched on some of that already, I guess what was happening through Lion at the time is we were getting ready. And in fact, this benchmarking survey happened right before our SAP S/4HANA go live.
Yep.
So it actually, in a way, served as a pretty good baseline metric, as well as a sense check of where we're at as a function and as a business overall. So from our perspective, what we've leveraged those on is to, as I said, get a gauge of where we're at, where some of our strengths are, and what we need to focus on from an implementation point of view. But also, as we've embedded SAP S/4HANA, we were very clear on making sure that we continue to maintain our strengths. And if we did, have impacts post go live and stabilization, making sure that we're focused on how we get back to those areas where we were strong at, and continue to be clear on what we need to focus on in terms of optimization opportunities in the areas where we're not. I think what was also interesting, just to reflect on that exercise, benchmarks, as I said, generally are pretty good gauge of where your opportunities are. Whilst we were working through sort of COVID, working in a remote environment and SAP S/4HANA, I think we were also embarking on a fairly new world of digital capabilities.
For sure,
it's a pretty significant change. So the 30 metrics that we've covered across the 8 categories, just for context, had quite an interesting, I guess, areas of strengths and opportunities for us. So to use one of the examples, the DPO metric, for example, we were pretty strong on. So we ranked within the 10th percentile, which was amazing. But again, we kind of knew that because for the most part, and significant portion of that was really Lion being one of the first signatories to the Australian Supply Payments Code that committed us to a maximum 30-day payment terms for the small suppliers. So we've rolled that out initially across the small suppliers and made a decision to actually extend it to all of our suppliers. So we knew that the DPO metric was always going to be strong given that environment. But what was interesting is that we definitely had opportunities in the efficiency side of things. So metrics like your first time match rate, things that actually feed into and underpin that DPO outcome, they definitely showed areas of opportunity. So as we embedded SAP capabilities and as we stabilized the system, those were the areas that we zeroed in on and focused on. So we've since rolled out a number of CIs and system enhancements within SAP to start to improve that first-time match rate and the efficiency metrics that underpin the DPO measures.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. And then just to briefly show everyone who's attending the session, these are the aggregated results from the top 20 study for the DPO, as Albina mentioned. They are within the top 10%, but the median is about 45 to 60 days. And I've also put in DSO over here. And I know you mentioned about DPO. There are also other areas and other matrix that there were also areas of opportunities that you identified from benchmarking. Would you like to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, DPO and DSO were sort of, those almost, all-encompassing metrics across your order to cash and procure to pay. So we always are not only looking at DSO and DPO closely, but specifically, as I said, the metrics that support those and those that we can focus on from a lead indicator point of view as well to shift them forward. The other area that was also an area of focus for us, and that echoed very much in the results of the benchmarking survey, is around payroll and HR space. So the results that have come through for Lion, and particularly on the cost per payslip area, we had an above medium result in terms of the cost per payslip that we were operating on. And there was a number of efficiency measures, again, in that HR and talent space that suggested areas of opportunity. So again, an interesting kind of mix of insights and outcomes. So one of the metrics that were included in the study was actually payroll error rate. So whilst we had a really great outcome in the payroll error rate, which is, again, testament to our people and the governance in that fairly, sensitive area, we ranked in the 10th percentile. So that was very pleasing, and we wanted to make sure that we continue to drive straight governance and review and sort of the capability in that space, that we were able to achieve the result. But the opportunity in itself was, again, in that efficiency space. So we were getting great outcomes, but they were at a cost, both financially and then from an efficiency perspective, given the indications across the other metrics, like your employee self-service portal adoption. It was pretty low. I've mentioned that the cost per payslip was pretty high. So that certainly then, I guess, drove focus areas for us. So at the time we received the survey results, we were in the planning stages for our people technology transformation program. So we absolutely factored that into our planning and decision making around the areas that we wanted to improve, and that also helped us set some concrete targets around what are the types of efficiency measures or financial improvements we were targeting as part of this transformation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Albina. I think we do still have a bit of time, maybe a minute or so. Maybe I'll just end off with just one question. What's the key takeaway from last year and your top priority for this year? Just an ending off question,
No worries. It was quite interesting because, again, I pulled up out of curiosity our enterprise profile to refresh my memory on what we planned a year ago was our priority. And it hasn't really changed that much, to be honest. So our priority last year and the objective overall was to optimize our processes and realize our benefits of a fairly significant SAP for HANA investment. So we're now about 7 months post go live. We've learned a lot about our new system. We've got a lot better process disciplines. And I think probably what's changed and evolved is that we now understand and value data a lot more than what we have before. So I think one of the greatest, evolutions since the last study was having access to much more data that's enabled us to move to more of a balanced scorecard, business outcome-centered reporting and metrics beyond what we have done previously. But it is really continuing to evolve that, focusing on those core process capabilities, system enhancements, process improvements, and really building on new ways of working. So we all live in a brave new world. We need to ensure that we continue to focus on our people, and leverage this new blended way of working between remote and kind of office, which again is, for the large part enabled by digital capabilities. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Thank you so much, Albina, for sharing your insights. And as you mentioned, the focus really on leveraging on data and improving processes and everything. So it's actually a good segue to my next slide, which is on benchmarks. What we did was we covered we just scratched the surface. We discussed a couple of metrics, but we have a lot of metrics on the SSON platform that we hope the SSON community can leverage and help you out in this journey. So you can leverage data from Lion in the top 20, or we also have industry-specific and location-specific matrix as well. So for anyone who attended this session, we do have a special promotion for you. If you're keen, if you're interested at all, please feel free to reach out to me or to my colleague, Josh Matthews. His contact detail is on the website. We also are in the midst of starting the Top 20 2021 study. So do keep a lookout on that. And the results hopefully will be out on the website later this year. So thank you so much, Albina, for your time and for your sharing. I really enjoyed it. I hope the attendees enjoyed it as well. So that's all for today. And see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you.